Welcome to Life Quotes. Today we'll explore 30 inspiring stories that reveal timeless lessons about life, happiness, and resilience. Each tale offers a unique perspective, reminding us that true fulfillment comes from within. Let's dive in and discover the wisdom hidden in these narratives. 1. Not everyone can walk fast, but anyone can walk in the right direction. Story: The Patient Blacksmith. Once upon a time, there was an old blacksmith living in a small village. Every day, he woke up before dawn to do his work. Although the work was heavy and his income meager, he persevered without stopping. In the village, there was a childhood friend who was a wealthy merchant living in comfort. Every time he met the blacksmith, the merchant always mocked his slowness and patience. Until one day, the merchant faced a crisis, losing all his wealth, and had to return to manual labor. It was then that he realized the blacksmith had built a sustainable life through perseverance and walking in the right direction. 2. The one who knows how to be silent at the right moment is the strongest. Story: A lesson from the silent hero. In a distant kingdom, there was a famous warrior known for his bravery and wisdom. However, few people knew that his greatest secret was not his muscular strength or fighting skills, but his ability to remain silent at the right moment. One day, when the country fell into chaos due to internal strife, many other generals argued loudly about how to resolve the situation. The warrior sat quietly, listening to everything. Finally, when everyone was exhausted and divided, he stood up and proposed a solution. Thanks to his calmness and the ability to choose the right time to speak, he saved the kingdom from a bloody war. 3. Happiness does not come from having more, but from needing less. Story: The Beggar and the Diamond. Once, a monk passed through a village and happened to meet a beggar sitting by the road. The beggar asked the monk for help. The monk said nothing, but took out a large diamond from his pocket and handed it to the beggar. The beggar was overjoyed and ran home to show the whole village. However, a few days later, the beggar returned to find the monk and asked for something more valuable. The monk asked, "What do you want now? I have already given you a diamond." The beggar replied, "I want the peace of mind that you have, which allows you to give away a diamond without hesitation." 4. The truth often lies in simple things. Story: The King and the Lesson on Happiness. There was a king who wanted to learn the secret of happiness. He summoned all the wise men in the kingdom to teach him. The wise men presented countless complex theories about life and how to achieve happiness. However, none of the theories satisfied him. One day, the king met a shepherd boy. The boy simply said, "Happiness is when we need nothing more than to enjoy what we have." The king finally realized that happiness was not complicated, but rather a satisfaction with simple things. 5. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Story: The Painting of Success. There was a young painter who always failed to gain recognition. Every painting he created was criticized. One day, he decided to paint a picture about failure. However, when finished, the painting was recognized as a masterpiece. People said that the painting did not represent failure, but the process of overcoming it. The young painter realized that when he changed his perspective on his own work, the world also changed its evaluation of it. 6. The person who learns to forgive is the one who frees himself. Story. The story of two friends. Two close friends were walking down a long road. One day, they had a serious conflict, and one of them slapped the other. The one who was slapped said nothing, only wrote in the sand, "Today my best friend slapped me." A few days later, they faced danger when crossing a raging river, and the friend who had been slapped saved the other from drowning. This time, he did not write in the sand anymore, but carved into a stone, "Today, my best friend saved me." When asked why, he replied, "The hurtful things should be written in the sand for the wind to erase, while the good things should be carved in stone to be remembered forever." 7. The more you cling to something, the more likely you are to lose it. Story. The Bird and the Bird Hunter. A bird hunter once caught a beautiful bird. The bird begged him to release it and promised to reveal 3 secrets of life. The hunter agreed. After being freed, the bird said, "The first thing, never regret what is past. The second, don't believe what cannot be verified." The hunter was furious, thinking the bird had tricked him, but the bird laughed and said, "The third thing, if you learn to let go, you will never lose anything precious." 8. Failure is not the end, but a new beginning. Story. The Inventor and the Failed Experiment. There was an inventor who dedicated his life to finding ways to make his machines work better. He failed thousands of times. People mocked him, claiming he was wasting his time. But the inventor only smiled and said, "Each failure does not mean I lost. Rather, I have found one more way that doesn't work." Eventually, his perseverance led to a great invention that changed the world. 9. Change does not come from outside, but from within each person. Story. The Prince Who Wanted to Change the World. A young prince dreamed of changing the world. He tried to implement grand reforms, but people resisted, and nothing changed. A sage advised him, "If you want to change the world, start with yourself." The prince did not understand, but over time, as he changed his attitude and became more understanding, gradually the people around him also began to change. 10. Those who do not dare to walk will never reach their destination. Story. The Journey of the Seeker of Truth. A man heard that there was a saint living in a distant cave who could teach him the secrets of life. He spent many years searching for that cave, overcoming many difficulties and challenges. When he arrived, the saint simply said, "You have found the secret already. The journey of seeking has given you the most valuable lesson: patience, courage, and perseverance." 11. Success is not measured by what you achieve, but by what you overcome. Story. The Climber and the Peak of Failure. There was a man who dreamed of conquering the highest peak in the region. He trained and tried for many years. When he began his journey, challenges piled up: snowstorms, lack of oxygen, and injuries. After many efforts, he could not conquer the peak and had to turn back. People called him a failure, but he felt he had succeeded. "Success is not about reaching the peak," he said, "but about learning to face and overcome my own fears." 12. The greatest knowledge is realizing how much you do not know. Story. the philosopher and the sea of knowledge. An old philosopher sat by the beach, watching the waves roll in and out. A student approached and asked, "Master, what have you learned after many years of studying philosophy?" The philosopher smiled and said, "Human knowledge is like the grains of sand on this beach. The more you learn, the more you realize you only hold a tiny grain compared to the vast sea of knowledge out there." His lesson was humility and the continuous pursuit of learning. 13. No one can bathe twice in the same river. Story: The Fisherman and the Ever-Flowing River. A fisherman went to the river every day to fish. He realized that every time he returned, the river was always different. Sometimes the water flowed fast, sometimes slowly, but it was never exactly the same as before. One day, he met an old monk who told him that life is like that river. Everything, events, people, and feelings are constantly changing. No one can bathe twice in the same river, because both the person and the river have changed, the monk explained. 14. True wealth does not lie in money, but in the soul. Story: The Poorest King. There was a king who owned a rich kingdom, but he always felt a sense of lack inside. He could not understand why he had everything, yet remained unhappy. One day, he decided to visit a wise man to ask about the secret of happiness. The sage took him to a small village where a poor family was always filled with laughter. The king asked them, "How can you be happy when you have nothing?" The father of the family replied, "We have nothing but love and peace in our hearts. That is our greatest wealth." 15. Strength does not come from grand things, but from accumulating small actions. Story: The Bamboo and the Lesson from Nature. In a forest, there was a tall bamboo growing among smaller trees. When it was a young sprout, the bamboo grew very slowly, showing no signs that it would become strong. For many years, it focused only on developing deep roots in the ground. One day, after establishing a solid foundation, the bamboo suddenly grew rapidly, surpassing the other trees, becoming the strongest in the forest. The lesson from the bamboo is patience and focusing on accumulating small steps, even if they go unnoticed by others. 16. The most valuable thing is not what you are searching for, but what you already have. Story: The Monk and the Golden Bowl. There was an old monk living in a small temple on a mountain. One day, he heard that a treasure was hidden deep in the forest, and anyone who found it would get everything they desired. He decided to go in search of it. After many months of fruitless searching, the monk returned home, exhausted. Upon arriving at the temple, he saw his rice bowl, an item he used daily without noticing. He realized that the most precious thing was not what he had struggled to find, but what he already had in his everyday life. 17. If you want to soar high, first learn to let go of what holds you down. Story: The Eagle and the Chain. There was an eagle trapped in an iron cage with a chain tied to its leg. It always dreamed of flying freely in the sky, but could not because it was bound. One day, a boy came to visit and asked the eagle, "Why can't you fly?" The eagle looked down at the chain and said, "I have become so accustomed to being bound that I do not dare to think about breaking free." The boy helped the eagle remove the chain, and from then on, it flew freely in the sky. The lesson is that sometimes to move forward, you need to let go of the things that have imprisoned you. 18. Sometimes the best thing you can do is nothing at all. Story: The Gardener and the Rose. There was a gardener who cherished the roses in his garden. One day he saw a rosebud that had not yet bloomed. Eager to see its beauty, he decided to help it bloom early by cutting away the outer petals. As a result, the flower was damaged and never bloomed. The gardener realized that sometimes patience and allowing nature to take its course is the best thing to do. 19. Everything has its reason for existing. Even in suffering, there is growth. Story: The Cactus and the Lesson of Endurance. In a barren desert, there lived a solitary cactus. It always envied other plants in fertile lands where they had plenty of water and sunlight. One day, the cactus asked another plant, "Why must I live in such harsh conditions?" The other plant replied, "You have learned to endure and thrive in extreme conditions. That is why you are stronger than any other plant." The cactus realized that it was the challenges that had made it strong and unique. 20. Life is a journey, not a destination. Story: The Endless Journey. There was a young man eager to find his purpose in life. He traveled everywhere, from the highest mountains to distant shores, hoping to find answers. After many years, when he returned home, he felt exhausted for not having found what he sought. A wise teacher looked at him and said, "You have not realized that the purpose of life is not in where you arrive, but in the journey you have taken. It is the experiences, challenges, and joys along the way that truly give life meaning." 21. Live like a candle, burning yourself to illuminate others. Story: The Candle in the Darkness. Once upon a time, in a small village, there was a girl who always carried a small candle with her. Whenever the village was plunged into darkness due to power outages, she would light the candle to help those around her find their way home. Although the candle could only shine for a few hours, it helped dozens of people avoid danger. One day, someone asked her, "Why do you burn your candle instead of letting others fend for themselves?" The girl simply smiled and said, "The mission of the candle is to shine, even if only for a brief moment. If we can do something good, we should do it without thinking of ourselves." 22. Failure does not weaken us. Only the fear of failure makes us weak. Story: The Warrior and the Final Battle. There was a warrior who had fought in countless battles, but in his last battle, he was defeated terribly. The people in the village called him a failure and advised him to give up his martial arts. However, instead of being afraid and giving up, the warrior took time to train from the beginning. He kept working hard, learning from his failures, and ultimately won the next battle, proving that failure is just a stepping stone on the path to becoming stronger. 23. Change does not come from just talking, but from taking action. Story: The Builder and the Perfect House. There was a renowned builder known for his talent. One day, he was hired to construct a house for a wealthy man, with the requirement that the house be perfect and flawless. The builder spent years designing and planning, but never started the construction out of fear of making mistakes. Finally, the homeowner came and said, "Nothing is perfect without a beginning. Take action. even if it means making mistakes. The builder realized that instead of dreaming of perfection, the important thing was to start, and gradually, the house would become perfect through each action taken. 24. Those who can feel the silence truly understand life. Story: The Sound of Silence. In a deep forest, there lived a monk in seclusion. People often came to him for advice about life. But instead of answering, the monk would invite them to sit and listen to the sounds of the forest. At first, people felt uncomfortable with the silence, but after a while, they began to notice the subtle sounds of nature. The wind rustling through the leaves, the distant chirping of birds, and even the sound of their own footsteps. The monk said, "Only when we learn to listen to the silence can we truly understand what life wants to teach us." 25. People are not defined by their circumstances, but by how they respond to them. Story: The Lesson from the Farmer. A farmer lived in a poor village. One day, heavy rains washed away all his crops and livestock. The people around him said he should give up and move elsewhere. But the farmer did not listen. He started over, diligently plowing and replanting his fields. A few years later, his harvest was bountiful, while those who had given up returned with empty hands. He said, "Circumstances cannot determine our fate. It is we who decide what we will become in any circumstance." 26. Only when you lose something do you realize the value of what you have. Story: The Missing Ring. There was a wealthy merchant who owned a precious heirloom ring. One day, he accidentally dropped the ring into the ocean. He searched everywhere but could not find it. Since losing the ring, he felt empty and regretted not appreciating it more when he had it. Many years later, on a fishing trip, a fisherman caught a large fish, and inside its belly, he found the merchant's ring. From then on, the merchant always reminded himself and others to cherish what they have before it is too late. 27. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the action in spite of fear. Story: The Soldier and His Fear. In a great battle, there was a young soldier who was always terrified of the battlefield's brutality. He could not stop trembling at the sounds of gunfire and bombs. But his commander told him, "Courage does not mean not being afraid. Courage is taking action despite your fear." Hearing this, the young soldier decided to move forward, and even though his heart raced, he fought with all his strength. After the battle, he became a hero and realized that courage is about overcoming fear to take action. 28. When you are grateful, life becomes richer. Story: The Man Who Appreciated Life. There was a man who always complained about his life: a boring job, a dysfunctional family, and a meager income. One day, he met an old friend who had faced many hardships in the past but now lived happily. His friend said, "I changed my life simply by being grateful. Instead of focusing on what I lacked, I began to look at what I had, and through that I found happiness." The man started practicing gratitude and realized that his life also became better. 29. Learn from the past, live for the present, and hope for the future. Story: The Monk and the Three Questions. One day, a disciple came to ask the monk, "How can I live a fulfilling life?" The monk replied, "The past is a lesson, the present is a gift, and the future is hope." He told the story of a person who wasted their entire life regretting the past and fearing the future, forgetting that each passing day is a precious opportunity to live fully. The monk advised, "Learn from the past, but do not let it bind you. Live wholeheartedly in the present and aim for a bright future." 30. Do not let external difficulties rob you of your inner peace. Story: The lesson from the drop of water and the rock. There was a small stream flowing over a large rock day after day. The rock was solid and strong, but the stream did not stop or change its direction. After many years, the drops of water had worn away the rock, creating a small groove. The story teaches that inner peace and perseverance can overcome all external difficulties and challenges, just like the small yet powerful stream that wore down the solid rock. Thank you for joining us on this journey through 30 powerful stories. Each lesson encourages us to embrace life's challenges and find strength within ourselves. If you enjoyed these tales, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Remember, the journey is just as important as the destination. Until next time, keep shining your light.